Hi and welcome to the second episode of my career series. Thank you to everyone that watched the one I uploaded last night. Thank you for the views, thank you for the subs. It really means a lot. Hope you enjoyed it, and here's the follow-up. So this is the Great Caladera Safari Park, which is all about education. It's really good with the careers because each one follows a different aspect of the game. So if you complete them all first, if you're new, by the end you'll have a real good outlook on the entire game, and it will set you off in sandbox and franchise with a lot more experience on the background stuff, more than just putting animals and into enclosures and some food courts and making it pretty. So to start off on this one, you need to finish the safari track. You need to release a animal from any habitat into the wild. You also need 12,000 guests, and you need to get your education up to 25%. So first of all, I started by going through and starting with the safari track. It's very simple. Just find the gaps. There's one or two gaps where you need to just join them together pretty much. There's different arrows to move side to side, up and down. And then you just click enter or on your mouse every time to put another piece of track down. If you're really stuck on this, Paulsley, I'll pop a link in the description to that video. He's got a safari track tutorial that's really helpful to learn it, and he's also got a lot of other amazing things that are really great for different tutorials. So yeah, once you've done that, you then start it to test. You can't open it until you test it, but it doesn't have to go all the way around. So as soon as it's tested, you can click to open it, and then you'll get a tick for that one. Then I moved on to the education. There isn't any education in the game when you first go in, very limited. So if you pop the speakers and the habitat boards with the information on, next to every habitat, the middle habitat has got about 4 or 5 animals in. So find locations round that habitat and then just pop loads in, and then each one you can set to a different animal. It will pop up in the drop down box. Make sure you change it, so it will come up yellow if you haven't put the right animal or there's no education on it. So just change that over so that you've got the right animals. Make sure you pick one for each one. You don't want them all saying the same animal. And the other way to get your education up is choose the education boards. Here I'm putting them in the queues. I thought when you go and queue up for different things, quite a lot of the time you have stuff to read while you're waiting, or different types of attraction things in queues. So I thought this would be a good place to put a load of boards, just to have them up. The education boards have all different subjects around the world. There's quite a lot of the drop down box, so you can just go down and pick all the different ones you want. It's all topics from around the world, and then you just need to give it a bit of time for it to catch up, and people actually to read them. I also found an exhibit that didn't have an education board, so I popped that in as well and got that done. And then just make sure that all your habitats have got education boards or have got habitats with the habitat information boards as well as speakers, and then you have them ready for people to start learning, and that's as simple as that. It kind of goes up on its own the more you continue about doing that. So here I'm just releasing one to the wild to get that tick. That's a very easy tick. Go into the main enclosure, wait for one of them to have a baby, and then that's it. You wait for them to age up, send them to the wild. The other thing to get your education up, which is what I'm doing just now, is research. Not only does it do enrichment and better quality foods, you can also have more information on your board. There's a little number in the corner, and that goes up on your boards every time you do research and unlock a board. So that's another good one to do. While I was waiting, I dropped down, and you need to have 2 cheetahs in your zoo. So I made another enclosure just so that was ready there's more animals in the park, which can attract more guests, which is more likely to get you tick, and you've also done a stage to the next level. It's very important to have a look not just at bronze, but scroll down. If you're planning on getting all the way to gold, scroll down, because you don't want to do loads of stuff and then get to gold and you realise that you should have put an animal in specifically to do that tick. So that's a good way of jumping ahead. I then realised that my hyenas didn't have any education, so I went and popped them on there. Again, make sure that they've got power, just in case. There's no point having a board or a speaker if there's no power. Education won't go up, people won't be able to read them because they'll just be blank, turned off. Monitors and speakers, and just check to make sure you've got the right animal. Here I'm just popping in a little electricity point because there wasn't enough electricity to cover them ones, so I'm just popping that in to make sure that they've got electricity. Excuse me. And again, the habitat nearest the board will be the first one in the drop down. Just make sure, if you've got two enclosures quite close together, just make sure that you're picking the right animal, because you don't want to have the boards the wrong sides, and people are having to cross over to read for the animal that you actually wanted. So now I'm buying my cheetahs, just having a look for something a bit more better fertility wise, because another one in gold, I believe, is a baby as well. So again, it's very good to get this bit in early, so you're not sat at the end of the game, you've done everything else and you've just got to wait for a baby. You can let stuff like this go on while you're trying to complete other missions in the career level. So my game crashed, so we missed a few seconds of footage. Here is, I'm just making it bigger while I'm waiting for the cheetahs to arrive. Make sure you do your research. They've got happy enrichments, they've got everything they need, shelters and all stuff like that. It means that you'll start the breeding side of it a lot quicker the happier they are. So just make sure that you've got that all going. I also realised that there wasn't any power around here, so once I've popped the education boards up, I pop some power on this way. Here I'm doing all the terrain. Not the most fabulous habitat. I didn't want to spend hours and hours making them all look fabulous, because I probably won't play the career zoos themselves. I want to create my own stuff, and having the option on franchise where you can have as many zoos as you want on there. Any ideas or themes that I want to do in the future, I can just add to my franchise. So these were all very basic, keeping them happy habitats, just to get the career levels through. So there's the donation pots, they're very good for making a bit of money. And then I'm putting up the education boards. Each level you need to increase your education level, so the more you remember to put education boards on any of the new habitats you make while doing this, the easier it will be on you towards the end where you need to keep the education up. Then I realised that it had no power, so I'm just connecting the power up, ready to get that all up and running, with happy education boards and speakers. Now I'm checking to see what else I need. In gold you do need some African lions, so it's best to get that set up ready to go, so that you've not waiting around towards the end. It's a great tip to check in front. Again, if anyone wants anything particular made, just give us a shout. I'm more than happy to put out content that you want. You're the guys that are watching it at the end of the day, so if there's particular things that maybe other YouTubers are missing out that you're really stuck on, or just different animal habitats that you'd like to see a better idea, or not necessarily better, but maybe there's a certain animal that no one's really playing with, no one's really bringing content for, one of the underdog animals, even if it's like the water hogs, just pop me a message, and we'll try and come up with something fun and creative. So again, don't want any lions escaping, so I'm just upping up the wall. So here I was just giving it 5, waiting for the guests to just catch up a bit, and then I go on to put some glass and some education boards in. I might have gone to get a drink or something while I was waiting for that one to load up. So now we put the education and the glass boards in, making sure that the donation pots are there for some extra money. It's a great way, especially when you're first starting out in your zoos. People don't want to overly pay prices to come into your zoo, so making sure you've got plenty of donation pots around is really helpful. So now I'm just calling a vet in as my animals are infected. And then I'm also going around checking, making sure the right sexes for the right animals are in there, and then releasing the others to the wild, because if you don't have the right ratio in there, they all start fighting and all become very unhappy very quickly. So I'm still waiting for the guests to come through, so I'm just checking the other animals and seeing in bronze and silver and gold, if there's anything else I can do to speed up the process. Putting in a little keeper hut so they don't have miles to walk, again making sure it's far enough away from the path that you're not upsetting the customers. I'm just going around the park, seeing what other room I've got, education boards if I've missed any spaces that I can put stuff in. Now I'm looking to see how much the lines are, and to see if there's any other animals in there that I can buy that are quite high value. I think I end up going for a hippo to get another enclosure in, just because if you have a high profile animal that people love to come to the zoo and see, it's a good thing to get them in early, because then you'll up your guests very quickly, because everyone's coming to your zoo to see that particular animal. So here I'm just making a pathway, trying to decide which way to go round, and then I'm making a habitat for a hippo. I try and have it so that I thought it'd be quite cool as the jeeps go past, if they got a glimpse of the water side of it. So I tried to do it in the end so that the water side was next to the jeeps, so that they got like an extra bit of tour as they were going round. If they happened to be swimming there at the same time. Trust me, I am better at creativity. Again, this is just very basic. I kind of wish that I'd put a bit more effort in, just so the videos are a bit better for you. So the guest level went up, so now we are moving on to silver once we have got the hippo in. We would have already done the cheetahs already, because we'd done that step while we were waiting in bronze. Now I'm just making the terrain the right height, and also make sure that they can get into the swimming pool or the pool area. If it's not smoothed out correctly, they can't get in, or they'll get in and they can't get back out. And then they drown, or they die of starvation, because they haven't been able to get out to get the food. So now I'm just connecting it back up. Now I've moved all the terrain so that it's round it. It's not the neatest of terrains. Now I'm smoothing it all out. And then I need to connect these two, which was a bit of a struggle because the terrain wasn't smooth enough, and then I need to get all the back and raise it up, because obviously where we've got the terrain, they can get out. Then I put the water in, again just make sure it's high enough, smooth out all the edges. You can't have the water in when you're smoothing the edges, just go back round, smooth them all down, just double check. You can use the heat maps. If you have the heat map, click on the animal, which I'm sure I do a bit later on. You can then check the level to make sure it goes blue where they can walk, so you can make sure that you've got it nice and they can definitely get in and out. Then I go over, I had some warnings for other animals, so I was just calling keepers and vets, making sure everyone's alright. They do, where you have a lot of different species all in together, they tend to get very angry with each other if you've got too many in there, so just keep an eye out and make sure you've got them nice and happy, otherwise everything will start to go down if you're too busy trying to work on something else. So now I'm putting my lions in, checking to see what I've got enrichment wise. Not putting, again, not the most attractive of cages together, or habitats rather. Then I end up with an infection in one of my enclosures, so I go around making sure everyone's happy, calling a keeper, putting some enrichment in, checking to see if I have food enrichment. If you've got an animal that's absolutely starving, sometimes it's quicker to buy a brand new food enrichment if you've got it. Even if you put it down, let them go and eat and then cancel it out and delete it again, just because depending on how big it is and how well your work zones are designed, the keepers might not get to them straight away. I had issues in one of the later levels of career where there was too many customers, my paths were too small, and the guests were struggling to get through the crowd to get to the enclosures, so I found a quicker way. Obviously you guys will know this mistake, so you can make bigger paths, but I found the quickest way was to chuck in a food enrichment, because they're filled when you first put them in, they're already full, so then they can get some food quickly before anything nasty happens. So now I'm just sorting out the coverage. It was the wrong sort of thing in the enclosure, or there was too much, I think, so I just deleted a few. Now I'm checking to see if they can have any of the enrichments, to save me researching, but there wasn't very much, so I ended up putting them on some research to get myself some food enrichments and also the toy enrichments. So now we need to breed 5 new habitat animals of 4 different species. So I'm just going around making sure the hippo's happy. This is where I use the blue to make sure he can get out all right. As long as they can get up and over, it's absolutely fine. They just need a section of blue that goes for all around the exhibit. It doesn't matter if they can only get out one way, as long as they can get out, then they're more than happy. So here I am just completing silver while I'm sorting out a shelter for the hippo. On this level you need to release 11 animals to the wild. You need to breed 5 new habitat animals of different species. You need to increase your education rating to 40%, and you need to have at least 2,000, can't quite see that, 2,800 guests in a zoo. The more animals education, the more happy everyone is in your zoo. Obviously the more you expand it, it will go up eventually. I'm sorry if you can hear that weird noise in the background. It's my lovely dog Gizmo having a lovely time on the sofa. So now I'm just putting in the enrichments for the hippos. Get them all happy and ready. I end up getting him a mate in the end. Giz. Giz. It's enough, mate. Sorry about that. I end up getting a mate for the hippo in the end, so that I can breed that last animal. So now I'm just going through, again checking the sexes of who's in what enclosure, stopping any fights going on. We ended up with protesters, so I was just setting them all up, making sure they're all happy. It's very easy, especially when you're waiting stuff, to put it on fast forward, and then before you know it, everything's going wrong and you've got to try and sort it out. So try and keep in mind that as well as you're doing your tasks, there is a fully functioning zoo going on in the background, so just make sure any alerts, you just check that everyone's got the right thing. Hire extra staff if needed. I just popped 2 more vets in just to make sure. I didn't really struggle with work zones too much. Again, I didn't want to go too in depth on what staff were working where and working too much on the zoo itself. I was mainly just trying to get each stage of the walkthroughs of the career done. Obviously, if you want to spend a lot more time making enclosures pretty, or if you're planning on using the zoo afterwards, as you're going along, you can make sure staff have work zones and all the correct facilities that they need. So I ended up with a notification that I had quite a lot of litter, so I am now putting bins around to try and get that up. And then I go round and put more education stuff in. It went up quite easy on silver, but there wasn't enough education around for gold. So I then ended up adding extra ones in on the new path, just so that was up, and slowly made that go up, which increased quite quickly, so that was no worry. And then it was just a case of waiting for animals to breed, and also get my guests up. A trick with the guests is if you do some marketing, it increases the amount of people coming into your zoo, because obviously they see an advert like we do on the telly, like a local zoo near you's got a new orangutan, so then you're like, oh, I need to go to visit that zoo. So the marketing's a good way if you're waiting to boost that up. So now I am just going back to my lions and my cheetahs and making sure they're having a lovely time, because you do need to have a cheetah cub in the last mode. And then I was getting more research because I worried that the research wasn't getting done because I didn't have enough vets or research facilities to do it. So I'm just checking that everyone's happy and why they're not, and seeing what the percentage of them breeding, and then I go into the market, and this is when I get myself a hippo mate, because you need to have all the different species pretty much to have a baby, so I needed a new friend for the hippo. This is me just checking that the research is being done so I can make them as happy as possible, as quickly as possible. I did speed the video up now because obviously all I was waiting was for guests and more new babies in the park. So my theory was I'd build a mini little food court. Not many people were coming round, so I thought I'd build another little viewing area, but then also have a food court where I could have, my education was done for the lions, so I was just checking what they could have. Obviously the quicker they're happy, the quicker you can get the breeding programs right. And then I also thought to get more guests in, pop another enclosure in. This was just a small enclosure. I think I put the Gens box in this one, just as an extra, try and entice people round. The longer they're in your park, the longer they're... Oh no, I went for African buffaloes, which I then put within the middle section, because they're a species that can also go in. I'm planning on having quite a large safari in my franchise, that you can also... Going to have some sort of ride. I haven't quite decided which ride yet. I'm going to have a boat ride going around Elephant Island, which I think would be quite cool. The other rides I haven't really made my decision on yet, on what they're doing. So again, I'm just checking the quicker you get them happy, the quicker they're going to start having babies. It's very self-explanatory really. And now I go in and see what animals aren't in the zoo. Oh, there's my hippo that I decided to buy, to see if they breed any quicker. And then I'm just checking all the research, making sure that they're happy doing that. And then I put in here just a few. I noticed that no one was coming round, so I thought if I put a few shops in, it might attract. I ended up going for pretty basic ones in the end, but that already had covers on. I think I use these ones in all the career modes in the end, just because they look a bit nicer than the plain shelf with the insulation showing. Then I just pop my bins down and some benches. I thought they might come down this end more then if there was more comforts around. And then that's all that is really to it. Just get more animals involved. The more exhibits, the more you attract. Oh no, I went for stable antelopes in the end. Yeah, and then you get all the education up. Obviously, with time, with happy animals, you get the breeding side done as well. And then that's it. The end of this level's pretty easy if you keep everyone happy. It doesn't take long. The main thing to get up is the education. The more different boards and speakers you put in right at the beginning, it means when you hit silver and gold, your education is a lot higher than what it would have been if you just maybe put one or two just so you scraped into bronze. So I'd recommend just getting all the animals, all the exhibits, plenty of education, put a lot of the boards around that have got the world education and information on it. Make sure you spread them out, they're completely different, and then it's easy. Then you'll just fly through this one. And obviously your research as well to make sure that the boards are higher education. It makes your education go up a lot quicker. If you're finding that these speed up videos aren't as helpful, please pop a comment in the link, and we can do some of the other ones. I can record as I'm doing them on the later ones. Some of the harder ones towards the end I would recommend not doing it in real time, just because you'd be sat watching a 5-hour video and a lot of waiting, because a lot of them you need to have different levels of stuff. Another thing that I just looked at then, if you're picking animals as extra animals within this level, because the whole point of it is a breeding program, you need to make sure that your animals are going to breed. Don't go and buy a male and a female, they've both got 0% on the breeding, because you won't get anywhere, and you'll be waiting for ages wondering why you haven't got any babies. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Now I just maintain it, keep an eye on it, release animals to the wild when they get old enough, just to save fighting, and that's it. You just basically let it run, let nature take its course, I suppose, and that's it. Another one done. Again, thank you for watching. If there's any videos or anything you want me to make, or anything at all, just feel free to pop me a message. I'm currently working on my franchise. I'm probably not really going to go on to Sandbox. I started my franchise, put in some very basic animals. I had 3 to start with, and then I let it run while I was doing my research, got my research right up. I unlocked a lot of the construction side, so you can do a lot of the building straight away, exactly how you want. I think I've had it running, sold a lot of animals to the wild, or released, sorry, until I hit probably the 200,000 mark, and then I went in and I've deleted everything and started again. And to me it's a bit like having Sandbox, because if you've researched and you've got enough money, it's other than the struggle of the market for your animals, the rest of it is pretty good. But the more animals you breed and sell, and the more days you go on, your conservation points go up, and just I would leave the higher value ones to the end, and once you've got them and you've got high ones that you can breed yourself, you won't really need to worry about the market, because you can just transfer from franchise to franchise within your own animals. So it's only the initial startup. So here it wasn't really going up, so I was just checking to see why everyone was not happy, and what I could do extra to help with the getting more guests in. I end up putting a drink thing in, I think, in the end. I put some more education boards in, because another good thing with the heat maps, you can find the negative to positive on how everyone's education is going. So you can go around the zoo, and if there's a cluster of red, you know that you haven't got anything there that's good for education, so you can just pop them in, and they're all ready to go, and then it will slowly boost it. Same with food and drink, and anything like that. You can just pop your heat map on, and then have a look to see what you've got going on, who's red, what's going on, and then it's easy then. You can then start making guests happier properly. The heat map's a really good thing to watch, and how you're planning your zoo, because if you find there's a lot of people that are red because they're thirsty, you know if you put a drink in there, they're going to be happy as Larry, and that will boost that section. So heat maps are a really good tip. Again, I'm just selling a load of animals, stop them all from fighting, check in, see what's going on baby wise, see if anyone's decided to produce anything yet. And then again, I was checking the heat maps, seeing where the education's at, trying to get more guests. I changed the marketing. You can only have 3 at a time, and I decided I had 1 small one and then 2 middle ones, and I decided to have 2 middle ones and a large one, just to see if that boosted it quite quickly. And then I just put some more education down, because I think if you're standing reading, you're going to be in the park longer and more guests are going to be coming in. So the idea is to just give them as many things to do as you can, just to keep them in your park for longer, and then the numbers will slowly start to go up. And yeah, more animals, a few more exhibits. I also realised that these guys go in the middle, so I bought a load of them and chucked them in. A new animal tends to attract people straight away, so that's another good tip to it's the same as anything, and even in real life, if there's a new attraction or a new animal going into your local zoo or theme park, you want to go straight there and see it. So another good tip to get your guests up is chuck more animals in. As you can see, we're not far off. We just need to wait for it to go up. I think it's 2,800. And with the marketing, the new animals, more education, it goes up pretty quickly, and we soon get up there. So any minute now it's going to go gold. So thank you for watching. If there's not anything that you're quite sure of within this video, pop a comment underneath, and as soon as I've seen it, I'll get back to you and try and guide you through and help you with your query. And yeah, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this video if it's been helpful or you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.